Hey everyone, I'm Soorya Ramesh.
And I'm John Ravi, and you're listening to Two Brown Accents. Today, we're going to be talking about video games.
And before we get started on that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ding!
Okay, Soorya, do you think gaming has any practical skills in the real world, or do you think it's just a waste of time?
It is not a waste of time, John. I do think it has a lot of practical skills. I have been gaming since forever, but some of the practical skills I do think are it helps you it gives you quick time reflexes, right? Because in games you're doing it so often, so many times. Suddenly there's an enemy in front of you about to hit you, so you don't know if you're supposed to attack or if you're supposed to defend, or one of like so many buttons, right? But you need to choose one and you need to click it. You need to decide to run away, fight, or flight. And I think it teaches you a lot of those skills. And I'm not saying that people who don't game don't have these skills, but I definitely think gaming hones these skills a lot. Some other good things about gaming, there's a bunch of management games or simulator games, right? I think simulator games are great for in case you're trying to, like train simulator, just to get an idea of how trains work in the real world, right? You, as a person, you think trains just go from point A to point B. When a flight is delayed, you just complain. You're like, oh, dude, my flight got delayed. But you have no idea what's actually happening behind the scenes. Like, oh, is the runway free? Or is there are the pilots on time, or did the previous flight get delayed, or something like that, right? So when you play all these like simulation games, I think you learn a bunch of stuff. um, Simulation management, you learn to manage a lot of things. I also personally, it also helps me gamify my life to a little to an extent, which kind of, when I gamify my life, doing chores feels a little bit easier, that kind of stuff. But yeah, these are some of the upsides, some of the major upsides I think to gaming. And I mean, um, also, I think gaming is basically chores, but game developers are trying, because you're doing the same thing over and over again, right? But developers design it in such a way that they're trying to make it fun for you so that you don't get bored of the chores. Because in any game, it doesn't change so much, right? You learn a few moves. There's like 10 buttons, and you're just repeatedly pressing these 10 buttons over and over for, I don't know, 20, 30 hours minimum. So I think that's kind of a. I also really like to understand how game developers think to make it look like you're having more fun when you're just doing a chore, and you can kind of like incorporate that into your life.
Mm.
So yeah, that would be my answer to that. Why do you game? Do you game for the story, for the gameplay, for just whiling away time? What do you?
I think maybe when I was younger, probably for the story.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's just like when I'm bored, like or when I'm stressed, maybe sometimes I just want to play some like simple game. For example, like Super Mario Brothers, like the really old one, right? Like I just like playing that. I actually really like also watching the speedruns,
Right.
because I want to like also emulate some of the stuff they do, and it's like very tricky, like they do like the smallest things to shave like a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
I really like looking at that stuff and trying to optimize the games too. So that's why I game. Like I just like a time pass.
Okay. So more for the most part, it's just time pass
Yeah.
nowadays. Okay. Um. Yeah.
But
I guess. Okay. You were saying?
I mean, so like something that I was thinking about while you're talking was like people consider maybe like violent games as like bad for people. Like what do you think about that? Because like you're saying like it does, like affect real world practical skills and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think it also could affect negatively? Like kids playing violent video games could also have like a negative impact on their.
I mean, I've played violent video games ever since I was a kid, and I do not think it's affected me in any way. I do know there are studies that say kids who play violent video games are actually less violent in real life or something like that compared to kids who don't, something like that.
Hmm.
Don't quote me on that, but I've definitely heard other people say that to me, that there have been studies. You can check it out, or we can list it later. But yeah, I mean, I've played a lot of games that have always been about fighting or killing or something like that. But
But
you
you would
know,
never do that in real life.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not like, oh, I get into an argument with somebody and the next thing I think about is slapping them, right? For the most part, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna um talk this out, figure this out.
Yeah.
I don't know if in the least I can say that video games did not make me want to be more violent, right? Like maybe I want to talk it out because that's just me and I don't know how video games have affected me, but
Hmm.
I don't think they have a negative impact, at least in that way. Like I don't think violent video games are bad or
Hmm.
anything like that. Um I'm gonna say, how has gaming in your life changed between when you were a kid and now as an adult?
Right. I mean, like especially this, right? Like back then, it didn't seem like. I mean, I guess there's always been some form of like attention parents gave to like different types of video games. But now it just seems like a lot more attention is given to this like violent video games in society. So that's why I asked what I asked.
Right, right, right.
Like, would you let your like maybe in the future, right? Like kids, would you let them play like because each game actually has a rating, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like rated T for teens
Hmm.
or like I don't know what the other one is like M I guess or
M for mature. Yeah,
yeah
yeah, yeah.
like would because at least my parents didn't really pay attention to this stuff, so
Hmm.
like they didn't really look at it much. But would you think about it?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I do think you should still look at like, like if it's appropriate for the kids' age for them to play that game, because there are mature games that I don't think kids should be playing.
Yeah.
I don't know about how, like, I think, like whoever's coming up with these ratings, they do a good job at that. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't think I wouldn't let my kids play games, right? Like, as long if they're kids, they'd play like Mario or Pokemon or something like that.
Which is
Uh,
rated E for everyone.
E for everyone, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad you know the ratings because I don't. As an adult, you can play whatever, so you
I
don't
always
have to
find
look
it
at the
so
ratings.
fascinating because it's like it's somewhat similar, but like also different than like movie ratings, right? It's
Right.
like slightly different. It
Yeah.
doesn't correlate exactly, but yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah. I
but
if they can, I'd let them play. I would never be against
yeah,
video games.
but speaking of like these type of video games, do you think visuals matter a lot, like photorealism or even like photo like realistic physics?
Um. Personally, for me, I do think it matters for a lot of people. Personally, for me, back in the day when I was a kid, I definitely liked video games when they're more and more closer to reality. And now I think we do have video games that look so close to like movies or whatever. But yeah, no, I don't think I care about that. I think I do enjoy it when games are like Spider-Man came out and it's really good. Graphics are wonderful. And I enjoy it and I have no complaints. But I also play a lot of pixelated games or games that just look like they came from the 90s or something like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised like how popular pixelated games are. Like you play a pixelated game on your PS5. It
Yeah,
has like so much power. Like it can do like, 4K 60 frames per second and you're playing something that could be played on like 20 years ago.
exactly. And the thing is, if I had to choose between the two games, Spider-Man was great. I played it for 20, 30 hours. I 100%ed the game. Everything was perfect. But I've been playing this game probably more than 30 hours, right? Dead Cells it's called. And it never gets boring and it's super cool. So yeah, is it such that a 500 MB game is significantly it's not size is proportional to the game, right? It's not the better it looks, the more I like it. No, it's there are games that are like 100 MB and I enjoy it so much more than games that are like 100 gigs.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I don't think the visuals matter to me. Yeah. What about you? Do you think?
Well, I mean, I when I think about this, I have a distinct memory in my head. I remember when I was much younger, like 8 or 9, playing NASCAR on my PS1. And I used to think, like, I used to love that game so much because the game was so simple. Once you figure out like one or two things about
Right.
drifting or braking
Mm-hmm.
and accelerating, you can basically get first place every time.
Sure.
Uh, but now it feels like there's so much more to it when you're playing a racing game. You got to think about not just terrain, but also like what the weather is, what type of car you're driving, what type of tires you have on the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's so much more to it now, right? So like to an extent, it's a lot more complicated now, and sometimes I miss the simplicity of the games back then. That's kind of why like I still play like really old games like Super Mario Brothers, like the
Yeah.
really old ones, because like I look at speed runs and see how they're optimizing for the smallest things, like trying to shave a fraction of a second.
I do like looking at speedruns. I don't think I could do it, but I love looking at watching videos. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, someone just beat the Tetris game, like the original Tetris game.
Wow.
Like they figured out like how to get to a level that's like previously not thought you could get to. Like
Sure.
the game literally halts there once you get there because
Right.
like the developers didn't think humans could get to that level.
Sure.
So
Sure.
someone got to that level, like a kid got to that level.
Wow. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we start closing on things, I have a game for us to play. Why don't we go about, let's start with you. Why don't we go about, you name a game and why you like it, like a sentence or two about why you like it, and then I'll go, and then we can do this like 2, 3 times, and then we can finish the podcast.
Okay.
What's
So
your favorite game, and
my
why do you like
favorite
it?
game, or a game I like,
Hmm.
well, Super Mario Brothers, because I think it's very simple.
Okay, okay, the old one. You're
The
talking
old
about the
one,
old one.
like the
Okay,
original Nintendo Entertainment System game,
okay.
NES.
I love all the Sony original games, which is why I own a PS5. But let's say my most recent favorite game is Spider-Man 2. Loved it. Great gameplay, great story. Would not complain. Would play forever.
Speaking of stories, I really love the like original Assassin's Creed games because they have so much lore in them. Like
Yeah,
I just love playing the games just to get the little cutscenes and like think about like prehistoric lore in the
right.
Assassin's Creed world. It's amazing. I really love that game.
Assassin's Creed 2, that one I played. Even though I started hating the Assassin's Creed franchise over the course of time,
Hmm.
for Assassin's Creed 2, I continued buying every single Assassin's Creed for like 5, 6 years just because I thought the next one would be better.
Hmm.
I played this game called Dead Cells. I was just talking about it. It's super simple. It's a roguelike game, which means every time the maps generated are different, and you get different weapons. It's completely randomized every time you go. If you played well, you can finish the game in 40 minutes. If not, you just start over at the start and keep going. It's so simple yet almost impossible to defeat. I love that game.
I really like the Super Smash Brothers games and also Super Mario or Mario Kart on the Wii, and the Switch because like you can have so many people play. Right, you
Right,
can have like 8 people playing in Super Smash Brothers,
right,
and it's super fun. I feel like it like changes the dynamic when you have so many people playing and can enjoy it.
right. Co-op games are totally, I don't understand why there's so less of them.
Right, like because we always struggle to find like a good co-op game to play
Yeah,
when we're together.
yeah. Co-op or local multiplayer, right?
Yeah,
Um,
couch
yeah.
multiplayer.
I'm gonna say this for all, like, if you want to play with one more person, there's this game called It Takes Two, Game of the Year 2021. It never gets boring, no matter how good you are, how many years you've been gaming, or if you've never gamed before. It's a great game to start with, and it's the
You
best one
gotta
ever.
have a really solid relationship with the person you're playing with.
Hey, you can play with your parents, you can play with your friends.
But
You don't.
it's very easy to tilt the other person, right? Like if one of you messes up, the other person can slow clap in the game.
Have you played that game?
Yeah, we played it
Oh,
together.
we played. Oh, okay. I don't remember. I used to game with
There's
somebody
a
else.
reason we haven't played it in a while.
Yeah. Why don't you go one more time and then we'll finish up?
Well, I gotta go back to one of the game series I played for so long when I was a kid, Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, it's.
I
I've
was
always
obs-
wanted to play, but I never
I
could
was
play.
obsessed with that game. Wait, why couldn't you play it?
I never had a Switch. And
But you never had like a Game Boy
I had
or
nothing.
wow, okay.
I had a PS1 and then no other consoles forever, and now I have the PS5 that I got. So.
It was very nostalgic to me to play Pokemon Go when it came out a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I played it so many times actually when it came out, and the only issue was that it didn't have a lot of the similar game mechanic as the old Pokemon Go games or Pokemon games.
Right.
So I kind of got bored with it after a while. You can trade Pokemon, you can
Yeah.
like fight with other people, so it got a little boring.
I like the pixelated one. I always wanted to play the red, blue, whatever those ones,
Yeah,
right? Because it was pixelated and you move one at a time. Even the new ones, I don't know. I never feel the vibe just because it feels 3D and you just move around like a normal game.
it's yeah, it's different.
Maybe it's good, but I've always wanted to play the pixelated one.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are okay. I think that we should wind it up for today.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you have any feedback, let us know in the comment section below, or feel free to email us.
At 2brownaccents@gmail.com.
See you guys in the next one. Bye.